All right, Shalom. First, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and blessings to the elect. This is Brother Yakal, coming with another lesson, Lord willing, this will be edifying. And this is going to this lesson, very short lesson, is going to show you how those Amalekites, all right, the people you call Jewish people, run our political system. You know, it's facts, and they do it in America and they do it here. Okay, and a lot of these politicians have sold out. And basically, for example, and I'll give you a good example. There was a football team. All right, Maccabi Haifa. All right, there was a football team in Israel. All right, this team here, Maccabi Haifa. All right. Now, this team is a Israeli football team, but they're allowed to be in the Europa League, the Europa Conference League, or the Champions League, which is in Europe. And that shows you that there's direct ties, okay, with those people that are in our homeland and the average so-called Edomite, so-called white person, shall I say, who are called Edomites in the Bible. And this football team, all right, their supporters are very, 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 very racist, all right? And you can go and look up what they did last year when they went to Holland. They were chanting songs about killing Arabs and this, that, and the other, pulling down Palestinian flags. And the people in Amsterdam had it off, you know, and they chased them, man. Beat the crap out of many of them. But at that time, they, again, in the next, I think it was in the Europa League, they had to come to the UK to play Aston Villa, which is in Birmingham. And the police commissioner over there in Birmingham said it would be too much of a risk. But guess what the government tried to do? They tried to lobby, and tried to allow them, you know, to come over. And eventually they weren't allowed to come over because it would have been trouble. And if you know Aston Villa, all right, let's see here, Aston Villa, all right. This football club here, Aston Villa, is in the heart of Birmingham, and it's the heart of an area where there's a lot of Asians and a lot of Israelites. Okay, so it would have been chaos, and they made the right move. Okay, but there was a Labour, a woman called Lisa Menamdi that tried to go against that, and basically that police commissioner did the right thing, and then they forced him to resign. Okay. Now that's showing you, and I'm going to show you in this video, quick video, all right, how much they run this country, have so much influence in this country. All right, let's start here.
Will be missed by almost nobody. Those hoping Andy Burnham represents a radical change will be disappointed, but at least he has the virtue of not being a toxic right-wing factionalist, which sets him apart from those who've surrounded Starmer for the last 5 years, and the government will no longer be tainted by the stain of a Prime Minister.
And this is our Prime Minister who resigned yesterday, all right? And basically, in his speech, he talked about the things he achieved in the last 2 years, and the number one was the one phrase that stood out was tackling anti-Semitism. That's what he said. But why is he saying it? Because this Israel lobby controls the UK government. That's the reason why, man.
Directly complicit in genocide. More than the demise of Starmer, this is the final death of the Morgan McSweeney Labour Together project. As Paul Holden brilliantly spelled out in his book The Fraud, it was a project that was forever tainted by its sordid origins. In 2015, the Blairite candidate Liz Kendall received less than 5% of the vote in the Labour leadership contest. How that faction went on in less than a decade to seize control first of the party and then the country is in many ways an extraordinary story. But it was not through intellectual renewal, through their ability to charm and to persuade people that they were possessed of a brilliant, forward-looking, radical policy platform. Rather, under Morgan McSweeney's leadership, Labour Together simply lied. Posing as a consensus-seeking think tank, it secretly raised £750,000 from hedge funds and supporters of Israel. Money it illegally failed to declare, enabling it to fly under the radar as it set about systematically undermining Jeremy Corbyn, above all through the weaponisation of anti-Semitism. In doing so, they delegitimised the Palestinian struggle and facilitated the dehumanisation of the Palestinian people, helping lay the foundations for the British establishment's disgraceful complicity in the slaughter of the people of Gaza. The Labour right had
So the Labour Party, which is in power right now in the UK, is your equivalent to the Democratic Party over there in America. And they're two sides of the same diabolical, sick and twisted, political system. Okay? Now, you're going to watch, this was a committee, and if you look at the heading there, it says pro-Israel politicians try to shut down lobbying debate. Because what that state, or that Zionist state of Israel's been doing, is been giving politicians money, okay? And this kind of behavior is in the scriptures, okay? I'm going to play this and I'm going to come back. Listen carefully. There's people here that clearly have been paid off, all right, by those Amalekites, all right, over there in our homeland, Israel. Take a look.
Anti-Semitic conspiracy theory.
The Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs has provided financial support to UK parliamentarians, and anyone who claims that these donors receive nothing in return is being naive.
Labour Friends of Israel, Conservative Friends of Israel, other Friends of Israel.
Minister. Minister.
I would just say to the honourable gentleman, gently, you can be a Labour friend of Israel without being a Labour friend of the Israeli government's actions on that particular day.
I beg to move that this House has considered e-petition relating to pro-Israel influence on UK politics and democracy.
On a point of order, Ms Harris, why is Israel singled out in this way? Why not Gulf countries, Iran, Eastern Europe or the USA?
It's a nice little speech he's doing, but the caption here reads, Conservative Friends of Israel spent almost £6,000 taking this clown to visit Israel in 2025. All right, so they're clearly paying these politicians off to advocate for them. Just like Yahweh Shai, our Lord and Savior, is an advocate for us in this truth. All right, and he advocates on our behalf to the Heavenly Father. These pieces of shit are advocating for that lunatic state of Israel and the wickedness that they're doing. This is what this whole thing is about. Pay close attention.
This is being discussed at a time when the Jewish community are clearly under threat and are suffering numerous hideous attacks. I'm not sure I trust the motivation, Ms Harris, behind the petition organisers, and I very much fear this whole thing smacks of an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory.
The petition has been signed by over 116,000 people. The petition calls for a public inquiry into what it describes as pro-Israeli influence on politics and democracy. That wording matters. It singles out one country and, more importantly, invokes a long-standing allegation that people who support that country exercise hidden or improper influence over our democratic institutions. That false accusation has a very long and very troubling history. Now, the most notorious example was the fraudulent document known as the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which purported to reveal a Jewish conspiracy to dominate the world.
And by the way, that Protocols Elders of
How do you
Zion
actually claim the life that you were born to live?
that he's talking about was a document that the National Socialists under Adolf Hitler, all right, distributed around Germany, and it exists, all right. So they're trying to make out like that a document doesn't exist. Okay, they're trying to make out like it's some conspiracy theory. I wonder why. And all the people that are coming up and trying to advocate for them have been given money or been trips to Israel.
Very motivation in its core, and as such, we should utterly reject it. Israel has so much to offer as the only democracy in the Middle East. And
by the way, that's a racist statement. The only democracy in the Middle East. You telling me that those other countries in the Middle East do not have elections? They do. You know, this guy, Richard Tice, all right, he's of a new party, Reform, which is anti-immigrant, anti-black, Asian, all right. Reform Friends of Israel spent almost £6,250 taking him and one other on a visit to Israel in 2025. You know what? I don't need to show you more of this. The list goes on and on and on. All right. This is how corrupt this system is, you know, over here. And it's the same as the one in America, because they have something called APAC in America. All right. And it's not even a secret anymore, because the Lord is blowing the lid off all their secrets. Okay. This is Psalm 64:1. All right. It says, "Hear my voice, O the Most High, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy." Verse 2, "Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked." And who are the wicked? All right, the so-called white man, the Edomites. All right. "From the insurrection of the workers of iniquity," sin upon sin, wrongdoing. Okay. "Who whet their tongue like a sword." And you've shown examples of that. When in that clip, when these politicians were saying, "You guys are getting money from Israel, you know, etc., and you're not declaring it and take it to meetings, and you know, etc." They're using their tongue as a weapon, man. All right, and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. All right, verse 4, the main point, "that they may shoot in secret at the perfect." Okay. "Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not." Verse 5, "They courage themselves in an evil matter. They consume of laying snares," which is traps, "privily," all right, secretly. "They say, who shall see them?" But the time we're in a time of truth. And all of these politicians, all right, are paid off. A lot of them are paid off, man. Okay. By the Zionist lobby. You know, they don't get enough money yearly, but again, they want more money. Okay, that's what's been happening. Now, something that I want to show you, and then we'll bring it to a close, is this. Okay, this video here. Gonna go into it a lot more.
Really political scene, receiving a medal.
Whether you're a professional.
It's a quick interview, sir. I know you're a very generous benefactor to the Labour Party. What do you think about the situation in Gaza at the moment? Why do you donate so much money to the Labour Party, Sir Chin? Okay. So that was Sir Trevor Chin, one of the most significant pro-Israel lobbyists in the UK. He's donated tens of thousands of pounds to various Labour MPs, including Keir Starmer. In fact, it was Trevor Chin who made that secret donation during the leadership election, which was only declared after Keir Starmer had won.
Joining me now to discuss this is my colleague, John McAvoy. Now, John, I mentioned there Trevor Chin's donation to Keir Starmer, the £50,000 that he gave him, but he's been giving money to lots of other Labour MPs as well, hasn't he? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, we found at Declassified that the pro-Israel lobby had donated to 13 of 25 members of Starmer's cabinet when he first
Take a look at this. All right, Lemmy, this clown, and unfortunately, he's one of our people. All right. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, Bridget Phillipson, Angela Rayner, and this woman was done for corruption, man. All right, she had to leave her job because there was some kind of discrepancy in a mortgage where, if I correctly speak it, can't remember fully, that she didn't pay a certain amount of stamp duty or something like that on her second home. They've all been paid off. Look, Nisa Namdi, she was the one that was trying to allow those people over there from Maccabi Haifa, they're hooligans who are racist to the core, to come over here to England. Liz Kendall, Jonathan Woods, Jonathan Reynolds, Yvette Cooper. The list goes on and on and on. And you know what this is, man? First of all, these people don't have integrity, but it's greed. It's greed, man. And that's why it shows you this paradigm of Labour and Conservatives or Republicans and Democrats. It's all bullshit. Absolutely nothing. Keir Starmer resigned yesterday, but whoever replaces him, the status quo is going to remain the same. That's why the Lord has to send his son back to blast these people out of power, because they're corrupt. All right? Sirach 10 and 9. Why is the earth and ashes proud? Question mark. There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man. And that includes you female MPs as well, man. Coveting for wealth, status, etc. For such and one sitteth his own soul to sale. And that's what they've done. They've sold their soul, man. Okay? Because while he liveth, he casted away his bowels. That's what they've done, man. They're covetous. They want a certain position. You know what I mean? They want to get that money, that prestige. So they take money from that Zionist state of Israel. Okay? So therefore what? All right? One setteth his own soul to sale. That's what they're doing. And this leader, Keir Starmer, who resigned, all right, yesterday, this guy over here, all right, our former prime minister, okay, in his speech, as I said, he mentioned those Amalekites, saying, "Oh yeah, one of his achievements to tackle anti-Semitism." Well, what about all the other problems in the country? See, that's the reason why politics is bullshit, man. All right, and that's the state of play in the UK. All right, it's nothing but a bunch of sellouts. All right, pawns to push forward their agenda. Now, in the next video I'm going to do, we're going to go into Keir Starmer, our former prime minister who resigned yesterday. He's still in post until someone else, takes over. And we're going to go into the fact that he's a part of a group. All right. And I'll get into it in the next lesson, called the Fabian Society. All right. And they're open about this. So in the next lesson, all right. And this was started in 1884. And they're, most of the Labour prime ministers, or Americans you call presidents, have all belonged to this society. All right. So that's the next lesson I'm going to go into. Okay, so I pray you're edified. Watch out for the next lesson. Because at the end of the day, what America does, Britain does as well. Remember, who gave birth to America? It was the UK. And unfortunately, but it was prophecy, it was our monarchs, all right, that were on the throne, like King James and so forth, who allowed a certain British people to go over to America. But the one thing that King James said is that the laws of the land in England, all right, when you go to America, because they made a place called Jamestown after King James, all right, one of the most important things is the law in the UK, in England, will apply when you go over to America. They ignored him, and they started doing the wickedness and slaughtering the Native Americans, who are Israelites from the tribe of Gad. All right, this society, most of our presidents or prime ministers from the Labour Party belongs to this. So we're going to go into that in the next lesson. All right. So listen, I pray you're edified. Watch out for the next lesson. All right. Shalom.